Hello, listeners, and welcome back to yet again another episode of the Beautiful Game podcast. As ever, I'm your host, Budge, joined by my faithful two co-conspirators, Dot and Dej. Gents, how are we? Are we well?
I'm good, Budge, man.
Great stuff, man. How about you, Dej? You good?
I'm good to go, bro. Looking forward to this one.
100%. Now, of course, we are in well-esteemed company, but before we introduce our guest, we need to remind you guys that you need to, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button right now on your screen. If you just look below, you can see a little thumbs up. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and sign up to all notifications here on YouTube so that whenever we drop a new video, you're always the first to find out about it. Make sure you continue to support the TBG brand. If you're not yet following us on Twitter, it's at podcast_TBG and on Instagram at pod_TBG. Now, we are joined by a Premier League bagsman. Of course, this is a gentleman who actually recently celebrated a huge milestone in his career of 150 career goals. He's currently plying his trade at MK Dons, but we have seen him in the Premier League previously and also in the Championship, playing for Cardiff, for Birmingham, for Palace, and of course Derby. But I think fans will most remember him most notably from his time at Stoke and of course at Norwich City. We've seen him score all kinds of goals, long-range rockets and bullet headers. This is a man with the strength of an ox. I think there are certainly some comparisons to Samson in the Bible with how strong this guy is. But having cut his hair off recently, he still has maintained his strength. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we welcome CAMERON Jerome to the platform. Welcome, CAMERON.
Welcome.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure, man. 100%. Right, Dej, go ahead, man. Let's get this party started.
Yeah, first of all, love for coming on, CAMERON. Like, you're someone that we've watched bag in the Premier League. I'm a Liverpool fan. I remember that rocket that you scored against Pepe Reina. But obviously now you're applying your trade at MK Dons. So why MK Dons? Because you're someone that's dined at the top table of English football. So it's sort of like humble for you to like drop down a few divisions and compete in League One. So why did you do that?
First of all, with the pandemic and how everything affected football this summer, just sort of gone with the uncertainty with finances and people sort of not wanting to strengthen and commit too many bodies in their squad. So it was kind of an opportunity just to carry on playing football. I was playing out in Turkey. I decided to come back after a couple of years there. And obviously, having known the gaffer, I played with him at Norwich. I know exactly what he's about in terms of how he is as a man and obviously how he was as a captain and things like that, a leader. So he just offered me the opportunity to come and play, be a part of something. They're playing probably the best brand of football in that league, a brand of football what's probably never been played in that league before. So it's exciting. They've got a lot of good, exciting, talented players in the squad. So he was just like, look, come here and sort of help out and be the one what everyone looks up to and lead by example. So I thought, I didn't really have much other options at the time anyway. So like you said earlier, I'm humble enough to be able to drop down and just say, you know what, I've had, a good career. I'm proud of all my achievements and where I've played and how long I've played for. So just go and enjoy yourself, keep smiling, keep playing football. And that's ultimately, if you like football, you'll go and play anywhere. So that was sort of the thinking behind it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, has this situation almost been like a reality check? Because I've spoken to a few contacts in the game and they're saying, look, people that are of the age of above 30 are struggling to get clubs. And it's almost like, listen, if you get offered, just take it because no one has money at the moment.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the money factor. I think the age factor has come into it over the last couple of years, and it's just everybody wants to. It's player trading, isn't it? Everybody's looking at getting a player younger, developing them, getting them exposure in the first team, and then obviously selling them for a profit. That's what football's become. It's become quite analytical. So long are the days where the older experienced heads are more, they're sort of a commodity. Back in the day, where like people go, you know what, I need experience through the span of the team. Mm-hmm. And that's it, ultimately it's a case of that's done and dusted nowadays, where, back in the day, managers would be only looking for players like that and have, your young up and coming players to sort of lean on experienced pros for help and guidance sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, the pandemic definitely changed that. But yeah, like I said, there wasn't many takers. Surprisingly, I mean, for someone who's played over 600 games for 15 years, never really been injured, there wasn't many people going, yeah, we'll definitely take him. There was a lot of people going, yeah, we'll wait and see and hang on. But time waits for no man. So if you want to go and continue playing, then like you say, just go somewhere where what's going to make you happy and just go and enjoy yourself.
100%. You know what, Cameron? A little while back, you kind of alluded to it in terms of one of the reasons, be it like that you decided to join MK Dons, was of course your relationship with a gaffer. Of course, you guys played together back in your time at Norwich, and I guess I wanted to understand like how you manage and navigate the change in dynamic, because before you guys were just teammates playing on the same team. Now that's your gaffer, right? So ultimately you're answerable to him. So is that a different dynamic to kind of navigate around?
Yeah and no. I mean, obviously it changes the dynamic definitely, but the friendship still remains, and the trust and the sort of loyalty still remains. So it's just it was different at first. Yeah, I got to admit, like coming in and going, wow, gaffer, and like everybody played with him at MK Dons, because a lot of the current squad he finished playing there and then transitioned into being a manager. So like a lot of people still called him by his first name, and I was just like, no, you need to respect him, man. You can't like just call him Russell. You know what I mean? You can't just call him Russ. You got to be calling him Gaffer or boss or something. You know what I mean? So definitely the dynamics definitely shifted slightly. Yeah, but it was strange at first, but you just kind of get used to it, sort of thing.
Don't you think that's how the game has changed? Players see their managers as friends now, and we see Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool hugging his players after the game, and we see Pep Guardiola coaching his players after the game. Don't you think the game has changed towards more, my manager is my friend? Yes, I respect him as my manager, but I want to have that relationship with him.
Totally. And I think, like you said, the relationship side of things have definitely come into play a little bit more, where managers have become more approachable. The man management skills become a little bit more important in the game, rather than being that sort of strict head of authority where you answer to him only, sort of thing, or you answer when you're spoken to, sort of thing. And yeah, I mean, I think the traits of a top manager is being approachable, and like you say, you see it some of the best managers, Klopp and Guardiola. These guys, they're so passionate and so animated with the players, and it's just like a bond. You can't sort of beat having that love for each other, and respect, and it's just it's a mutual thing. It's a mutual respect, and I think that's if you look at how some of the best players in the world are handled, it's that sort of that mutual bond what the player and coach or the player and manager has, and it just flourishes.
No, for sure. And Cameron, like your fame of form, 15 goals in 58 games is a madness. You're putting up the numbers. How have you had to adapt your game? Because I remember you bursting onto the scene, energy, pressing, running in behind, harrying defenders. But I've watched some of your goals now, and it's more about using your mind, anticipating where the ball's going to be. So what kind of things have you done to sort of broaden your knowledge in terms of football?
I guess that sort of comes with age and experience. I think you sort of I still play. The press and energy is still there, by the way. You're doing me a disjustice there, man. You're making it. Look, I'm trying to fight for that. I'm trying to fight for the oldies out here, and you're like, your game is changing. I thought you was going to say I've seen you. I thought you were going to say I've seen you. You're not slowed down. You're not lost any of that pace or any of that.
You haven't. Now it's much. Yeah.
I'm with you. No, I just think it comes with experience. The way we play as well suits my game perfectly. Like you say, some of the goals and chances what I've had this year have just been from, obviously being in the right place at the right time and just anticipating, like you say, where the ball's going to be and just being there to finish the attacks off, sort of thing. But I think it definitely comes with age. Like you say, you've trod that path before, so you're just like, these are the places to be, and that's obviously shows your experience and your knowledge of football, where you can't teach that, I think. And some of the best players, some of the best players in the Premier League who you've seen throughout the years, your Teddy Sheringham's, people like, he never had a yard of pace, Teddy, but he was one of the best guys that been in the right place at the right time with the calmness. Darren Bent was another example of that, where he was, Darren had all his attributes and strengths anyway, but he was just had that knack of being in the right place at the right time, and he was amazing at it. Defoe, people like that, and all these strikers, you sort of, you've seen throughout the years who have just had the habit of being in the right place, and it's a massitive strength. And if you can sort of adopt that and put that in your game with everything else you bring to the table, then you're always gonna have a chance, aren't you?
Definitely.
Yeah. 100%. You know what, Cameron? Just then, you were obviously talking about longevity, and you mentioned, some of the players that we've had a chance and the privilege to see play for and have such long and extended careers, and in your case, you obviously have had a very long career, played loads of games. Obviously, we laughed and joked about the whole element of you being so strong and you being so ever present. What I would be keen to understand is like, how, like, have you done anything off the field to help elongate your career? Because this is actually a question that we also asked Jermaine Defoe, funny enough, when we spoke to him on our platform, and he spoke about the fact that he always sort of looks after himself. It was sort of well noted that he had like the vegan diet. And then he also mentioned that he would, in the off season, before pre-season would start, there was a like a strength and conditioning person that he would go to see to get him ready for pre-season and stuff like that. So I wonder if there is anything that you've done in your career similar to that and off the field that has helped you stay injury free and stay in such good shape.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you mentioned there about Jermaine, he's still playing, and you still see him scoring and winning trophies up at Rangers. So I think football's changed from the stereotypical footballer 15, 20 years ago to the modern day footballer now, what's in shape all year round. You see some of these top players, they're scary athletes. They're playing international games in the summer, they're playing club friendlies just after the off season and straight away in pre-season. And you can't afford to rest. If you want to remain competitive and remain at a top level, then you've got to commit something and dedicate something off the field as well as on the field. So, all your little extra things and, your supplements you take. And, I've always had quite a good knack of getting, myself sorted in terms of supplements. Can I do that? Can I rest properly? Can I recover properly? Can I have all the things what you need to rest and recover at home with all the gadgets and, all the latest things? It's technology really, isn't it? Because it's the world changes yearly, so you've got to keep up with the times. Same as an athlete, you've got to have the best of everything to remain at that that top level. And I've sort of done that throughout my career. I've always invested in myself, invested in things what I can use and help me recover and rest, and ultimately get better, get fitter, get stronger. Make sure you're coming back to preseason in shape to have a preseason, because hard work's hard work whether you're fit or unfit. So if you go away for 6 weeks and come back, it's just going to be more difficult, but if you go away and you train a little bit and you keep yourself, ticking over, then it's going to be easier on your body when it comes to doing the pre-season. So yeah, you hear about a lot of players doing that nowadays, and I'm no different to those. I'd put myself in that category where I've always, managed to, touch wood, with a bit of luck, I've not really had many injuries, and I've always sort of been available for games, and I've dedicated myself, and I take pride in what I do off the field as well in terms of helping myself be available for training and games and things like that.
Yeah, so Cameron, you're 34 years young. Are you trying to play? How long more are you looking to play for? Is there a target in mind, or you're just going to keep going as long as the body allows you to?
Yeah, I think, my head, I always said when I first started out, once I made it a pro after a couple of seasons, if I got to 35, I'd be, over the moon. That was sort of the milestone age, what everybody sort of targeted. I just don't know. The way football is at the minute, who knows? Who knows if there's going to be no takers in it next year? You know what I mean? People might look at you and go, well, yeah, he's 34, and the question marks start coming out again. So I don't feel like I've got anything to prove to anyone at all. But just for my personal level, I think I'd like to keep going as long as possible. As long as I feel right in my body and my mind. I think it's more my mind will probably give up before my body, to be honest with you, because my body doesn't seem to have any effects of slowing down or feeling sort of, you know what I mean? So I think it's probably a mind, man. I think they both just there comes a time, don't they? You hear all the pros talking about the time when they're new in their head, that's me, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think when that time approaches, hopefully it's not within the next couple of years, but when that time approaches, I think, I'll know, and I'll probably be honest with myself and say, I've had a good innings. So yeah, we'll see what's on the other side, you know what I mean?
Definitely. Yeah. Talking about, proving yourself, you're a player that had to make that step up from Championship to Premier League. And we've seen it even this season. Patrick Bamford, came from the Championship. And I remember at the time, he was almost made a laughing stock. People were saying, oh, Bamford, he's not going to make the step up to the Premier League. Do you see how many chances he missed in the Championship? He should have scored 30 goals. So how difficult is it to make that transition from a Championship goal scorer to a Premier League goal scorer?
Yeah, it is quite difficult, but it's all relevant to the team you're playing in, I guess, as well. Because, ultimately, as a forward, you're always reliant on the service and the players around you. So, nobody's going to get the ball from the goalkeeper, dribble past 10 men and score this. So you're always dependent on the team you're in. So nowadays you're seeing players doing it more easily. I'd say people like Ollie Watkins, Patrick Bamford, like you mentioned there, because they're playing in good teams. Teams are coming up now from the Championship with good players, really good players, really good teams playing. They're not trying to just survive. People are trying to compete, going, you know what, we're going to go. You see Man City got a Leeds. I mean, Leeds got a Man City and turn them over at the weekend. You know what I mean? You're not seeing people go there and camp the bus like it used to be like 4-5-1. We're going to play 5 defenders, 5 central midfielders across the middle and one guy running his nuts off up front. And then, he's holding up balls and winning fouls and people are going there and playing expansive, good football. Football's changed. It's come a different cycle. So, I'm not surprised these boys they're good players anyway, don't get me wrong. Both the guys who I alluded to, Ivan Toney's the next one to make the step, hopefully, with Brentford or without Brentford. For him personally, somebody I look and admire from afar. So, I look at it and I think there's similarities in terms of the level, but ultimately, if the player's got ability and he's playing in a team what's, attacking and making chances, they'll score goals. It's the same, you look in the Premier League, these players have missed chances week in, week out for established Premier League teams. So I think you're quite judged, you're quite harshly judged at times, just because of a stigma of you've, played your trade in the Championship and it's the first time you've been in the Premier League. So you're sort of an unknown quantity until you sort of become a household figure as such, then, people sort of lay off you and relax a little bit.
Cameron, how difficult is it to manage that? Because armchair fans like myself will come out and criticize a player and be like, look, he's not Premier League level, he's Championship level. So do you listen to that noise? Does that noise get to you or you just block it out as a player?
I think you sort of hear it because it's there. I mean, it's difficult not to sort of ignore it, but I think the stronger minded individuals tend to sort of just believe in themselves a little bit more and just keep going. You know what I mean? Regardless of praise one week or criticism the next. So obviously it doesn't help with the social media platforms and things like that nowadays. So it probably is even more difficult nowadays in terms of the scrutiny people are under. But like you say, the average football fan will probably be a bit more critical than people who in and around football. Yeah, I definitely agree with that one. But yeah, you just got to be strong and just believe in your ability, believe in yourself, back yourself. You're there for a reason, you know what I mean? And that's the ultimate thing. You're there because somebody's paid money for you to be there and pays money for you to play every week. So regardless of what, Dave down the road thinks of you, it's irrelevant, you know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%. Do you know what, Cameron? Dot's question there teed up my next question perfectly, because what I was going to ask you is generally if you felt that clubs should be shopping more in lower leagues, and that is clubs in the Premier League, for example, because we've got so many examples of players that have made that step up to the elite level in the Premier League and have hit the ground running and done really, really well. Recently we know Dele Alli's made that step up from coming from MK Dons to Spurs. Of course, you'd be very familiar with James Maddison. In your last year at Norwich, he was there, and I think he got 15 odd goals in 50 appearances. And now after moving on to Leicester, he's lighting things up in the Premier League. So do you feel that the more Premier League clubs should be looking to the lower leagues in terms of their recruitment in this current climate?
Yeah, I think they will be. I mean, obviously the Brexit thing's a game changer in terms of younger English players because they're going to become such a commodity in terms of the fact that people can't go out and buy the best French and best Italian and best Spanish players nowadays. So they've got to shop at home. So that's only going to mean one thing: inflation on the young English market. So it's a good thing for these guys because they're going to get an opportunity to maybe be looked at when maybe they might not have been taken into consideration. Who knows? But like you said, there's been a pathway certainly over the last 5 years or so where players have plied the trade, League One and made a step to the Championship, then excelled then, and then gone to the Premier League and then excelled again. But like you say, players with ability, you put them in the right team and they can flourish anyway. Like James Maddison's one, Dele Alli's another. You can probably dig out 10 names if you've got a couple of minutes to really think about it. But I think clubs are looking further down the field and further down the leagues, and there'll be one or two more rough diamonds who are unearthed, going forward. You look at Ezri Konsa, Aston Villa, the centre half, brilliant player for me. He's at Brentford, and you look at another example who's the player at the fullback at Leicester, James Justin, who's at Luton. Went up with Luton from League One to the Championship, and then Leicester took him, and he's knocking on the door of England. You know what I mean? So there's the players out there. I think it's just sometimes the clubs have just got to have that a little bit more trust and. And there's a pathway there, definitely, 100%. You guys see it, you can, football, you see the pathway. There's players there.
Yeah, Cameron, I know we're a bit pressed for time, but I think it'll be a bit remiss for me not to ask you. I think recently we just saw some breaking news regarding the racism charge of the Slavia Prague player. He got banned 10 games for the racist incident with Glen Kamara, and Glen Kamara got banned 3 games for reacting to racism. It seems that UEFA have missed, an open goal in terms of making a stand against racism. What's your view on it?
To be honest with you, I didn't know the outcome of the charges, but if he's been found guilty of racist behaviour, then absolutely 10 games is the benchmark, like you say. But it's a little bit disappointing to hear that somebody gets 3 games on the back of reaction. That's not what we're trying to achieve here, and probably a lot of people will be amused with that sort of outcome. But you can't look past the 10 games. I guess is probably a benchmark, in terms of the sanction.
Do you think that's enough of a deterrent, though? Do you think that's good enough punishment?
I think it's a starting point, because I don't think I think it was Luis Suarez got 7 games, is it, for the everything? So 10's
7 games. Yeah.
10's it's a start anyway. It's a start, and if he's been found guilty for it, then he deserves it. He deserves all the punishment he's going to get. But I think UEFA and FIFA can set the precedent by handing out these sanctions, not just to players. It's easy to sanction a player, but when clubs do it and fans do it, then you don't sort of see them doing it against clubs and fans and nations and stuff like that. It seems to be little slaps on the wrist and fines. That's my big sort of beef with the whole racism thing, where I think there needs to be sort of a rule in place where this is the mandatory, standard procedure we go down, and any other, maybe if there's a different example or a different case, you take every case differently, but there has to be a sort of minimum sort of ruling where we go, right, if you are found guilty of it, obviously, of course, then this is, we're going to reprimand you properly. You know what I mean? Not what we've seen in the past where the sanctions haven't been good enough. So no, it's a start. It's positive news obviously for somebody who's a big advocate against, racial discrimination and discrimination of all kinds. So yeah, I'd like to see more of that in terms of, guilty parties being handed down severe punishments.
So if you were racially abused on a football field, what would your reaction be?
I'd be sad. I'd really be sad if in this day and age somebody abused me, another player. I'd be really sad, and I'd be disappointed that somebody would treat and speak to me in that manner. I just think we're in 2021. It's such a diverse world now. Then racism's always been there from day dot to now, but it's slowly going away. But sometimes you can't change somebody's mindset. Of somebody who's going to be discriminating one over for whatever reason. You can't change that. And people talk about this education and this nonsense. It's nonsense. Education is nonsense because people know the difference between right and wrong. So if I went to the shop and stole something, then said, "Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to steal it," would I go to jail, or would I say, "Oh no, actually, educate me on the rights and wrongs of theft"? I know right. I'm a grown man. I know the rules of the law. So, these sort of things, this make me laugh when I hear people trying to say about education and stuff like that. It's not about education.
So Cameron, if you were the UEFA president and you were in charge of making the rules and procedures for racism, if you had a 3-point plan to eradicate it from our sport, what would it be?
If I had a 3-point plan, I'd put rules in place for sanctions for players if a case of racism was found guilty. I put a plan in place for clubs if supporters was found guilty, and for nations. That's the three things, because it either comes from a nation. You've seen England go to many places in Europe and some of their players be abused. Teams, and if a player was playing for a particular team, like you said, the Slavia Prague, they should be kicked out of Europe. It happened in the European competition, kicked out of Europe. Whatever they do in their own league domestically is up to their federation. But as a UEFA competition, you're kicked out and you're banned you're banned. If you find guilty, these sanctions have to be stronger. So then it's a deterrent against people wanting to say it, even if they believe it. You can believe what you want in your own mind. That's your mind to believe it, but whether you say it or not, is another thing.
Yeah, 100%. Now I know we are a bit pressed for time, Cameron. So we're gonna wrap up.